The Nazis, short for National Socialist German Workers' Party, in 1921 Hitler took over the group. In 1933, the Nazis believed that the Germans were racially superior. Also, they said that there was a struggle for survival between them and other races. They saw Jews, Roma, which are gypsies, and handicapped people as a threat. That year, the Germans created laws that forced Jews from their jobs, university, law court positions, and other areas of public life. In 1944, the chief administrator received the final solution plan. After many conferences of discussion of how to carry out this plan, they decided to evacuate Jews, immense concentration camps, and extermination camps. Preparing for the final solution included the establishment of the extermination camp in Chelma. This camp is the very first camp to use fixed gassing on more than experimental basis. The Germans began killing Jews and Gypsies from Lodz Ghetto on December 8, 1941. Using gas vans, about 320,000 people died in Kelmo before the camp ended on January 17, 1945. Before the camp closed, the Jews who were deported from the ghetto in Poland went to the three killing centers called Belzec, Sobibor, and Treblinka. Gassings in Belzec went from March to December 1942. In Sobibor, it went on from April 1942 to October 1943. In Treblinka, it went from July 1942 to August 1943. About 2 million Jews died in just these three camps. Of the 2.5 million Jews deported to Auschwitz, 2.25 million were murdered there.
Not long after that, the Nuremberg laws come out and proclaim Jews second-class citizens. Between 1937 and 1939, new regulations segregated Jews and made daily life harder and harder. Jews couldn't attend public schools and theaters, cinemas, vacations, resorts, or even go to certain sections of German cities. As time went on, things got worse for the Jews. They were forced from Germany's economic life. The Nazis took their business and forced their prices to go down. In 1938, the Nazis organized a riot, and it's now known as Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass. Okay, a German diplomat was shot in France, and Joseph Goebbels blamed a Polish Jew for the crime. The Germans were furious. They were already rioting against the international Jewry. Due to this fury enhanced in the people, they began to throw stones in Jews' business windows and homes. Gasoline was ignited into the buildings. Punches were thrown to innocent faces. There were riots, assaults, and murders all across Germany. So much glass was broken that the destruction was called Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass.
Victims were Jews, homosexuals, Jehovah's, Polish, gypsies, disabilities, Black, and Soviet prisoners of war. The largest group that was killed were Jews. Roughly 5.1 to 6 million Jews were killed. Not all victims of the Holocaust were registered. Countless records were destroyed by Nazis, or lost, damaged, or destroyed in war. This is why the numbers are not specific. For Jewish prisoners, all the concentration camps were death camps. At arrival, they were given a number. Sometimes they would even tattoo this number on their arm. At most camps, you could split into two groups once you got there. The one group was sent to forced labor, while the other group was sent to be immediately killed. At Auschwitz alone, which was a part slave labor camp and part killing camp, over 1.25 million people were murdered at the hands of the Nazis. 90% were Jewish. Only 10% of children survived. Most children were sent straight to the killing camps because they were not able to do the forced labor. After the war, many children were left orphans because their parents had died in the Holocaust.
They were starving, they had little clothing, and were performing heavy labor. Most prisoners became deathly ill or really weak. Once unable to work, the Jews were killed, another was brought in to take their place.
Killing camps are when masses of people are sent to be killed at a killing camp. They let you die slowly and starve them to death. People are told they are going to take a shower, then they are gassed to death and their bodies are taken to the crematorium. At death camps, Adolf Hitler assigned secret killings for the weak, called mercy killings. They were to kill off all people who weren't able-bodied to work, like mentally disabled, injured, and sick. I can read that really fast.
You did.
Mine.
Okay, you want to just finish yours?
All prisoners were required to wear color-coded triangles on their clothes so that officers could easily identify their backgrounds. Adolf Hitler's belief was that Jews' main goals in life were to dilute German blood to take control of the world. Over 1 million people were killed. They weren't all Jews. They also killed the Gypsies, Poles, and Russians.
We can cut this out because we already talked about that.
Okay, that was good.
That was good, but I'm just saying hypothetically.
Girls were rarely kept alive unless they proved to be healthy and strong. When girls were sent to the labor camps, they were treated just like the men. They had to be shaved and wore either sack-like dresses or the same clothing as the men. About 3.5 million Jews were killed in the 6 death camps altogether. There were 400 camps created by the Germans. The gas chambers held 2,800 people and took 3 to 15 minutes to kill.
Another tactic for killing people during the Holocaust was the euthanasia program. The purpose was to improve the quality of the German race. This ushered the development of enforced mercy killings of the incurably insane and the extermination of the people considered to be biologically inferior. The operation was carried out in 5 stages. First, the candidates were selected from among inmates of the institutions. Next, they were taken to a transit center. From there, they were transported to the nearest euthanasia installation. There, they underwent a perfunctory medical tests and were sent in batches of 20 or 30 into a sealed room in which carbon monoxide was pumped. Finally, the bodies were sent and burned to the attached crematorium. But not before all gold teeth had been extracted and some of their brains had been cut open for purpose of scientific research. The first experiment was conducted in January 1940. By August of the following year, 70,273 people had been exterminated by these experiments. Hitler halted the euthanasia program on August 24, 1941. It was basically just the extermination of all physically and mentally handicapped people in a supposedly humane way. Some of the experiments for the euthanasia program were putting people in low-pressure rooms, testing different experiments on twins, and cutting and reapplying limbs. Children in the streets would recognize the bus with blacked-out windows with all the victims inside who were being transported, and pointed them out, saying, "Look, there goes the murder box coming again." Whenever the Allies were advancing during the Second World War, Hitler began to entertain second thoughts about the whole extermination program. In November 1944, Hitler ordered the crematorium at Auschwitz destroyed, as well as evacuation. With this mass evacuation, many Jews, over 100,000, died or were gunned down during the evacuation. Most death marches occurred during 1944 to 1945. The reasoning was to prevent the liberation of prisoners to the advancing Allies. This allowed the Germans to ensure a continuing supply of forced labor and to delay the discoverings of war crimes. The largest death marches was launched from Auschwitz. When Auschwitz was liberated with 7,000 remaining inmates, they realized roughly 250,000 victims had died during the death marches. In the frost, half barefoot or entirely barefoot, with light rags on their emaciated and exhausted bodies, tens of thousands of human creatures dragged themselves along the snow. During the great, strong, only the great, strong, striving for life, and the light of life, and the light of imminent liberation, them on their feet. But woe is to them whose physical strength abandons them. They were shot on the spot. This was a true recollection of Raz Kimball, a Jew who survived the Holocaust.
Is this the last one?
No, I did that.
Okay.
Okay, fast.
The Soviet troops arrived at the Majdanek Majdanek death camp on July 23, 1944. Even though the SS tried hiding the evidence, they still found a few survivors and 800,000 pairs. On January 27, 1945, the Soviets marched to Auschwitz, but just before they came, the Nazis sent the prisoners on a death march. Then they tried to take the camp apart, before anyone came. But the Soviets still found 348,820 men's suits, 836,255 women's coats, and 13,964 carpets, and 7 tons of human hair. Even when the prisoners were liberated, thousands of people died in those few days of freedom. Mass graves were created for the dead, and local civilians were forced to march to the camp. After the Americans saw the horrible things in the camps, they started wounding guards. They even handed them over to the prisoners to let them get a little revenge on them. The last camp to be liberated was Mauthausen in Gusen on May 5, 1945, and Europe Robert.
He had a power over the German people despite his 5 foot. During World War II, he didn't want to lie to the German people, so he went through the great pains to get the accurate pictures. He left out much of the
Dishonest.
things the Germans performed and reported the unjust things the Allies were doing. Joseph Goebbels planned to use propaganda as a sword against the Jews and communists. He hoped to stir the German people so they could not resist the Nazi Party. He controlled the information the public would receive. He would also manipulate the facts to his advantage. The Jews are reincarnation of evil, the demons of decay and chaos. Jews threaten every nation. We do not care what others do, but will not bow before this threat. We will take the most radical measures in time. Joseph Goebbels instead.
Okay.
Hitler told Goebbels to launch a massive misinformation campaign. Goebbels' job was to make sure that the rumors that Great Britain and Russia was going to be invaded. Although Great Britain didn't fall for it, Russia did, and Germany surprise invaded them. During this invasion, Goebbels was trying to get rid of all the rest of the Jews.
All right.